Hetapu. Can you hear me? Brother Mende? Hetapu? Okay, Hetapu. Atanara, can you hear me? If whoever's watching can hear me, can you say something? Hetapu. I see Deborah. Hebt. Okay. All right. Well, okay, fantastic. I'm so happy that Hetapu, look at this. This is blessings. Turn my mic up. Okay, let's see if we can do that. Because we've been having some technical problems, y'all, family. We're trying to get this information to you, but you know, Mercury is retrograde, and somebody just said turn up your mic, and there's no way to turn up my mic anymore than it is now. Abu, Deborah, you said you can hear me, right? And Atara says he can't. Okay. Now we just want to know how we're going to get Brother Mendy in here. Is there a way for that to happen? Oh, family. Okay, well, you know, Mercury is retrograde, but I'm here to serve. I'm here to do the work. And since I see y'all on the screen, I guess this is my intro into Facebook Live, because I have been putting it off because I'm so used to doing radio. So this is good. I see how this works in doing this way. But initially, we were going to have the interview here with Brother Mende asking questions. And so, you know, we're just learning this technology. So bear with us. Brother Mende, I don't know if you want to put your questions on the screen, but I think I'm going to follow suit with what we, established earlier today, because we attempted to do this earlier through Facebook Messenger. Okay, so I will proceed ahead based on that vibration. For those of you who do not know my person, my name is Priestess. They call me Priestess. Really, it's Kheri Hebt in the ancient Medu Netra language, which is a priestess of the shrines of Nit and several other Netraru that I also serve as a Kheri Hebt, a high priestess, a servant of the Netraru. And you can see this wonderful painting above my head was done by one of the initiates in the shrine of Atanara, which I also serve. And it's a beautiful painting of Nit in her Trinitarian form. And you can see she has the head of a lioness, in the middle a head of a woman, and then you see on the other side the vulture. And this is her manifestation as Mutmwa, mother of all, and Sekhmet. Okay. And Nit is the mother of Ra. She's the mother of all the Neteru. And this is her Trinitarian form. So here we see a Trinitarian form that actually came before the form that we have seen as the Trinity of Nit and Kansu. So this is the original manifestation, Kenum, Nit, Kenum, and Kansu. So I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. Brother Mende, when he was asking questions earlier, he was asking me about my personal journey and how did I come to do this work. And I think it's significant, those questions, the brother who is the organizer for Ancestral Knowledge, who was gracious and kind enough to connect to do this interview today. And so this was his question that he posed to me earlier. And what I was saying at that time and what I continue to share about that journey is significant because, you know, it really has been a profound experience for me in awakening. And there have been a lot of key influences, mentors, people of significance who I met in that journey, my sacred journey. And as I shared earlier, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, BK. How many people there out there from BK in the house? BK. All right now. And so my experience has been really profound coming out of the concrete jungle. It's really taught me a lot. Definitely the charcoal becoming a diamond experience through the intense heat, pressure, oppression that I experienced. And that was obviously in divine order, a necessary component for my transformation in this life. And so I grew up in BK, Brooklyn, New York, and I had the blessing to go to college when I was 18 years old, upstate New York. SUNY New Paltz is the college I attended. The State University at New York, in New York at New Paltz. And I met, you know, some key people there, key players in my life who, you know, were like the principal people who assisted me in my journey of awakening. And growing up in Brooklyn, I actually grew up in an area called Brooklyn Heights, which I don't know if anybody out there know Brooklyn Heights, but Brooklyn Heights is a place where I did not see a lot of people that look like me. Okay. And so I was very, what they call whitewashed, devoid of knowledge of self. I didn't have, in my immediate environment, people who were reflecting back who I was. So it wasn't until I went to SUNY New Paltz that I met those people. And Brother Mende is making a comment here. Okay, Brother Mende, I'm gonna have to, it's gonna be hard for me to do it with the text like this. So let me go kind of in the path that we went before. So in any case, going to New Paltz, I was able to meet Pan-African activists who were very key in my awakening. And that was Ilambe Brath from the Patrice Lumumba Coalition and Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, who he introduced me to. And they were really the first players, if you will, in this narrative called my life, this sacred journey of awakening, because I had been so whitewashed that hearing about Africa and understanding that I was African and understanding, our history and our story in terms of the geopolitics that, is going on and has been going on for some time as it pertains to the oppression of African people and our struggle for liberation. And all of these things were introduced to me through Ilambe Brown and Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael. And I was seeking, spiritually. So I was able to grow, through meeting these men and their works, and really it influenced me to study international relations. That was what I eventually majored in, with a concentration in Africa, Southern Africa in particular. But my spiritual journey started unfolding when I started seeking out myself beyond the intellectualization of the process, and really starting to have a deeper understanding, or yearning rather, of who I was spiritually. And eventually that led me to people, on campus and later in New York, who were able to provide some keys, for me to open those doors to explore myself. And, it was necessary that was, from my ancient ancestry, and eventually that led me to, the Kemetic spiritual tradition. I was initiated in 1999 into the shrine of Sekhmet. That was the first shrine that I received. And that shrine is such a blessing to serve in the shrine of Sekhmet. I've gone through a profound soul experience, transformation. I've gone through deep levels of purification, and really having a greater understanding of this process of transformation, galactic transformation, that is unfolding. And in fact, Sekhmet had me go through a great deal of study in terms of astrophysics, understanding geology, understanding quantum physics on different levels, so that I could understand this transformation energetically that we're going through as we move under the constellation of Aquarius in 2039. And so there are specific, key time frames, in terms of this transformation, as we go through this shift in terms of going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. There are things that we see unfolding in the collective consciousness of humanity. Aquarius is governed over by HetHeru, right? And her name also translates as the house of Heru. So that means that we, many of our people, are beginning to expand in their awareness, because Heru deals with awareness and inner vision. And so this is why we're beginning to then, find ourselves once again spiritually and reconnect to our ancient understanding of self, to our ancient culture, to our ancient ancestors. And, we're in between ages at this time. And so we're starting to see a lot of transformation, and also, congruent with that, we're seeing a very profound level of dissension as well, in terms of the old order, a breakdown of the old order. And we see that, globally in terms of societies, We see economic decline. We see, well, I mean, that's really, when we say we say economic decline, we have to really kind of look at that because there's always been economic decline going on as it pertains to America. You know what I'm saying? Because, when has there not been a decline economically in America? Because there's always been a slave system. So it's always been a decline. But there's a breakdown in terms of other things going on and belief systems, value systems where there's a shift and people are beginning to rediscover, ancient ancestral ways of being. I see a lot of people here on the side. This is very new for me. Okay. Hotel family. And I'm looking here and I'm seeing people, on the screen. So give thanks. I'm so grateful to serve. And I'm just sharing with the family right now a synopsis, basically, of my life and, the different things that the shrines that I serve share with the community, and in particular, the Bennu Ascension Online Institute, which is one of the institutes that I established about 10 years ago. And that institute is an online institute that allows me to share with the community about much of what I'm sharing now in terms of the ancient technologies, tools, ritual practices to assist us in this process of transcendence so that we can be successful at this time, so that we have the understanding, the ancestral guidance, so that we have the tools, practical tools that we can utilize on a daily basis. And that's the significance of me coming forth in this way with Brother Mende to share with the ancestral knowledge community that, yes, it is significant at this time that we begin to have these types of meetings, and that we come forth to share this ancestral knowledge. Because they say knowledge is power, and this is true, but we must have wisdom. And the wisdom comes through application. And it's very significant that we apply knowledge. It's not enough just to have a knowledge. And actually, there's a lot going on right now where people are starting to accumulate knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like they accumulate other material things. And that we have to really watch in terms of intellectualizing our spiritual wisdom. Because this is not something that just deals with the intellectual plane, the mental plane. And actually, when we stay in the mental plane, we're actually moving into sustaining limitations, okay? Because when we talk about transcendental knowledge, transcendental wisdom is way beyond intellectualization. And it's something that we have to really understand. We need to really begin to reassess how we go about connecting to our ancestral spiritual traditions. It's not enough to read books. You're not going to be able to experience divine truth through reading a book. It's not going to happen. Our higher self, our highest self, we can access within. And that is not something that we're going to access through reading a book. So I think that, it's important that we begin to look at what is the methodology for liberation that we're dealing with on a personal basis. What on a daily basis are we doing to move ourselves more in alignment, with that liberation, to move ourselves more in alignment, with our ancestors of the highest vibration. Because this time is a time when we can access the ancestors of our line, of the highest vibration, the Shepsu Aku, the deified ancestors. But we ourselves have to go through, certain processes for that to unfold, because that has to be earned, you know what I'm saying? So that needs to be something that is important, where we're reconnecting to our ancestors to strengthen ourselves spiritually and to receive the assistance and the guidance that we need from the ancestral plane. So when our ancestors see that we are serious, and I spell that SIRIUS, okay, and that we are serious about discipline, disciplining ourselves. A lot of times, we've been so westernized that the only thing we try to discipline ourselves about, is accumulating, Benjamins or different material objects, and we forget that our cultural value system, which is Ma'at, says that our human worth is based on how much we give reverence to our divinity, right? Not by how much we own, or not by how many books we have read, which can be mental objects, So we have to really be careful about that. So our cultural value system, again, Ma'at, is based on how much we exalt our divinity. Our human worth is based on that, not by how much we own. Okay, those things are there's a juxtaposition there. And we have to really understand that. So the more we exalt who we are, the divine, and better, the more we're exalted. And we don't, the Creator is, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, they say, right? So, the Creator doesn't have to exalt you. But look at the beauty of that. Where you exalt the Creator and you are exalted. So that's the love and the light and the truth and the wisdom and the power that is eternal, that we need to be really focused with intention about, as opposed to dealing with just what is temporal and dealing with, ourselves as a victim, not a victor. Heru is victor. Heru is not a victim. We have to also understand, what is Heru consciousness? Heru consciousness deals with that we actually create this reality. We co-create this reality. But we are active players in the manifestation of what we call our lives. Active players. Okay? So if our life is such that it is reflecting things that, we might not like, negative experiences, and we are co-creators, creators in its manifestation, then we have to look at why we are creating situations that are toxic, that are, negative, that are harmful, etc. And some people say, oh, well, that sounds like a paradigm that's blaming the victim. That doesn't sound like, is about empowerment. Well, again, this is from our ancient understanding of self. And so that requires, then we have to look within and see what it is that is going on in our inner world that's creating our outer world. Okay, as above, so below, right? So what is happening with us where our life is reflecting trauma, negativity, or whatever? And that's the key. That is the key. I teach how to go within and to really understand these things. And it's through Ast, or Uset, what they call Aishat, Isis, Anechara, Ast, that this is possible. It is Ast that gives birth to Heru within us. It is As that resurrects a soul within us. She's central in our rebirth, in our ascension, in our resurrection. And many of our people are still needing to learn to give reverence to the goddess. Okay, this is a big issue because of the Yorubu dis-ease that our people have contracted, which is a spiritual dis-ease, is a spiritual disease. Dr. Marimba Ani has really done wonderful work in analyzing that, okay, in diagnosing the spiritual disease, okay. And so now we are seeking externally, we are attaching to illogical beliefs, to things, people, places, and things, objects, for self-definition, to feel whole. Okay? And since there has been an imposition in terms of, you know, the unfoldment that African people have dealt with as it pertains to their spirituality of Jesus the Christ, so-called Jesus Christ. And the image has been projected as a Caucasian man. And so this is recycling the identification, the victim identification, where people, even many who have matured beyond Christianity, still have certain Christian illogical beliefs that they might not even be consciously aware of, where they're crucifying themselves, where they don't see themselves as divine because the image is not an image that looks like them, where the image is in the form of a white man, and so they have not been able to see the divine in the feminine and have disconnected from that. And so we have to look at the programs. We talk all the time about this age of technology and computer programs, but we don't talk enough about how do we remove the program that's stored in the subconscious and the superconscious mind. This is significant because what happens when a program runs, you know, its duration of time is doing that with a specific intention, with a specific objective, with a specific function, and with a specific result. So what programs we have to look at that we're housing energetically, spiritually, mentally, that cause us to create a reality of victimization, a reality that recycles back this experience of trauma. Now, I do many different levels of work in terms of different healing modalities, different healing rituals. And one of the things I've seen over the years as a past life regression therapist is a lot of people who have experienced trauma in previous incarnations. People that have been lynched, okay? All kinds of different situations of trauma. People murdered, many, many different situations and scenarios. So I can say from experience that I have seen with my two eyes as well, my inner eye, that people are recycling from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Similar experiences and attracting similar experiences because they have not released energetically trauma, energetically stored in their energy body. They called samskara in Sanskrit language. Samskara are imprints, karmic imprints stored in the energy body. Now, in the ancient Nile Valley civilization, spiritual culture, spiritual tradition, the energy body is known. We know we are multidimensional beings. We're not just physical beings. We're not just mental beings. We're not just spiritual beings. We're also energy beings. And since we have an energy body, this is significant for us to know how to take care of it, having an understanding of it, how to, do whatever's needed. Imagine if you never washed your physical body for many years. You would have some odor. And in this culture, people don't learn how to even take care of their physical bodies. So they learn just how to bathe themselves, barely that, because of the different things that people use even to bathe. But that's another story. But the point being here, if you did not take a physical bath for many, many years, you would have some odor. And you would begin to develop sores on your body, and you would smell very bad. And we've smelled, we've seen different situations where, we had to smell maybe someone who had not taken a bath or whatever in some time. And so we know there's an odor that we have to experience in those situations. Yet we're not taught how to do energy baths. We don't know how to deal with energy imprints of this nature. So when we talk about the necessity of purification in the Kemetic spiritual tradition, it's not just spiritual purification, it's energetic purification as well. And if you're not doing certain things, if you don't have certain practices, energetic practices, if you don't have certain, dietary considerations, okay, so that you maintain a certain energy level, because you can't have, and I talk about this in my videos, and please do check out the Bennu Ascension Online Institute on YouTube, the channel I have there, and I talk about this in one of my workshops I taught in New York City to some students there, and I was saying, you can't ascend if you're eating McDonald's. I was being facetious, but the point being is, if you have certain things that you're putting into your temple, dead and devitalized food, that is learned from this death culture, and you're not putting the foods, the necessary, foods that carry, the sun's energy, the life food, the chlorophyll, the food that has vitality, that can revitalize and regenerate you on a cellular level, then, you're not going to be able to maintain a certain frequency. And eventually you're going to get sick from the toxins and dead and devitalized food that you're consuming. So the point being here, again, we have to know basic, nutrition, health and nutrition. The necessity of that cannot be underscored in terms of ascending. So we have to know how to take care of our physical body. We have to know how to take care of our energetic body. We have to know how to take care of our spiritual body. We have to know how to take care of our mental body. So in addition to the OS work that I teach in terms of doing the healing work, so we can get some of these programs out, and heal a lot of the trauma so that we can actually do the work in terms of the chakra system and releasing a lot of debris that needs to be released and aligning the chakras. In addition to that, we do work in terms of the mind and purifying the mind through Raja Yoga, which is the yoga of concentration. Okay, so that we can move beyond these limited states of awareness. So we can move beyond the mental chatter, the mental impurities. And a lot of the mental impurities are coming up from the subconscious and the superconscious mind, you know, from these various traumas. And we're not even cognizant of that until we're still. And so we go into a space of absolute stillness in this work. Absolute stillness. And it's very interesting for people because we live in such a culture that glorifies busyness. And so when, you know, people have to be still, they have difficulty. So this is definitely a discipline that takes time. And as you begin to practice, then you're able to really move beyond the mental chatter that causes you, you know, to not properly connect to your highest self. Okay, it cuts you off, you know, from that divine intuition, you know, the divine voice of the ancestors, of the Netra root, because you have this chatter going on. And so it helps to, you know, arrest that, control the mind. It's a mind control, you know, tool that can be utilized for good. We've seen a lot of mind control for bad, right? So now we need to employ mind control for good. It's a way that we can really, you know, strengthen ourselves in the first battleground that we must really win the war around, which is the battle with the self. The war between Heru and Set. Remember in the ancient parable, Set cuts Asar into 14 pieces, right? And Set represents the ego, the lower nature, the animal spirit. And so Set is deaf, dumb, and blind. It's important that Set is controlled. This is our ancient way of life. And so when Set goes buck wild, as they say, with all this mental chatter and, you know, all of these false identifications of the self, attachments, illusions, illogical beliefs, you know, the identification with objects to define one's value, one's human worth, you know, really not understanding the centrality of Nthert within us in the resurrection, you know, and the rebirth processes. This is very important. And if we look at our ancestors, if we look at the Nasutu, the so-called pharaohs, the male pharaohs didn't have no problem with the feminine. They didn't have no problem with the goddess. They understood that Nit is the mother of Ra. She's the mother of all. And you can see in the painting, she has a penis. So we have been duped by a value system that teaches our people to desecrate the goddess, to subjugate the goddess, to disrespect the goddess, our eternal divine mother. who gives birth to our higher self, who sustains and protects our higher self. And when we see so much going on in our community, because that is not unfolding on many levels, then we can see why, you know, we don't see the blessings on the level. Now, this is why we go and refer to the Black Panther in terms of the Wakanda, civilization that they presented in that film. What's significant is not that it was a fiction or the propaganda of the CIA agent or any of that, or any of the dis-ease, including the origin of where they got it and its relationship to the Congo and all of that. But the blessing of the film and the power of the film that can't be refuted is Bast, the goddess. Glory be to Bast. Glory be to Bast, they said. All praises, all blessings were coming from Bast. And when we look at the etymology of that word, Bast, Ba'ast, the soul of Ast, we have to understand that we have to really, really get it right again with the goddess. We have to bow down to the goddess within us, first and foremost. We must remember, whether we're in a male or female body, that we are goddess. We are goddess God. Androgynous. And in bowing down to the divinity that we are, that's where the blessings come. And that's why that movie is so powerful and has touched so many African people throughout the world. Because it resonates with them. It taps into their ancestral memory. And that's what we need to tap into and expand. That's what we need to tap into. Going beyond the intellectualization of our spiritual wisdom, our spiritual teachings. Going beyond the patricentric understanding of our tradition. Going beyond the egocentric understanding of our spiritual tradition. Really beginning to understand Ma'at as it pertains to the hall of judgment, which we all must walk. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it, whether we're indifferent to it, and whether we have no knowledge of it, we must walk through the halls of judgment. Every day is judgment day. What are we doing now in the current moment to liberate ourselves? We talk about liberation all the time. But what is the methodology on a daily basis that you are utilizing that is ancestrally rooted? And I'm not just talking about in no book. I'm not just talking about intellectualizing. But I'm talking about how are you connected? Where I'm sitting here, just like I'm sitting here talking to you, you can sit and receive guidance from your highest ancestors, from the Neteru. That's your tradition. That's your birthright. And that's your blessing. And never let anyone steal your blessing. Significant It's significant how we utilize our time. Another thing that's going on is that people invest their time into things that do not bring them to manifest what it is that they might want to manifest. There's a block. And so we must remove the block. We must have a methodology to remove the block. So what are we investing in to remove the block? This is what we need to be meditating on. It's not enough anymore to merely talk about the blessings of Kemet, the Nile Valley, the Happy Valley. And we're not understanding that this is about giving reverence to the Creator, to Nteru, to who we really are. That's what this is about. It's about a worship. It's not about your ego. It's not about trying to just pontificate some knowledge. All these people up here investing their time in debating knowledge and one being one up on the other and this and that is a waste of time. When you can go within and resolve whatever it is that you did not understand about yourself. Because the contradictions are really dealing with a lack of knowledge of self. And it's not about that. That's a total waste of airtime. Our people need tools for liberation now. We done talked about it. Dialectics was around way before Karl Marx. So if that's your methodology for liberation, I'm sorry for you. Dialectics was going on thousands of years before Marx was even thought of. If we say this is the methodology for liberation and the end result is emulating people who are totally dismembered from the truth of life itself, eternal, then what are we doing? If our social systems, economic, political systems are emulating, barbarians, those without wisdom, lost souls, then what are we doing? You mean to tell me we didn't know how to run our nations before the European came along? Why is it that when we so-called go through processes of liberation, our societies begin to look like European societies? And that's supposed to be progress. That's not progress. And that's why oftentimes we see our people recycling the same experiences, which is victimization. When we look at the Nile Valley, we see it was a theocracy. That's how the civilization was set up. That's how the society was set up. That's how the government was set up. And some people say, oh, well, everybody's not, dealing with that spiritual system. Well, I don't know what to tell you. What I'm saying is, I want to see what works. I want to see what you're utilizing that is working. Okay? And if we look at indigenous traditions, spiritual practices, if we look at indigenous culture, okay, we can see that those societies are more harmonious. They're much more based on nature. They're much more reverent of the goddess. because they're connected to their divinity, their spiritual, their ancestral traditions. And supposedly when our people begin to advance, then they started structuring their societies after Europeans that they were colonized by. And that was the beauty of Wakanda. It was a theocracy. That's our ancient way of life. That resonated with our people. That we were led by the Neteru, Bast, in this film. That we were led by the ancestors. That we use herbology to reconnect to the ancestors. Of course, there are other ways to do that work. But the point being that that was central in the guidance of the nation. And it was through the goddess. And nobody was quibbling about that. There was no power struggles around that. There was no, we had the Dora Milaje, and nobody had a problem with that. That was in divine order. It was in divine balance. It was harmonious to the people of the nation. Nobody was saying, oh, well, we don't think the sisters should, We have to get out of the caveman barbarian mentality as it pertains to the feminine and begin to give reverence to her within, first and foremost. Once again, for the people in the film, the Black Panther, when he went to the ancestral plane, he had to go through Bast. When the ancestors came towards him in the ancestral, on the ancestral plane, they came in the form of Bast. And then they came in their physical form that he remembered. This is significant. This is a theocracy. And there's nothing wrong with the theocracy. Don't let people tell you that it's unrealistic, or, that's not possible, or, we can't all get under that banner. Well, for those of us who want to live under that banner, let us live under that banner. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let someone tell you that you have to run your society like these people who do not know how to run a society. So you have children, so-called, running the world, destroying the world, because they have no knowledge of self. They have no spiritual guidance on how to govern, because they don't know how to govern themselves. And so our people are falling behind people who don't know how to govern themselves. And so we have Isfet, which is chaos, the opposite of Ma'at. And so we have to look at what is the methodology for liberation, and how are we utilizing that on an individual basis? How are we utilizing that on a collective basis? We have to really tap into that spiritual power once again. It's not enough just to talk about it. It's not enough to say, oh, I like that on Facebook. It's not enough to go to a lecture. We have to move beyond that and be proactive about our liberation. And so I'm here, to share this love with you, to share these words with you, to share this time with you. Not because I'm trying to, be a grand poobah. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. And for those who are sincere and serious, SIRUS, about their own liberation, about their own reverence. Because if you can't give reverence to the divinity that you are, you can't give reverence to the divinity in anybody else or in anything else. In nature, case in point, the barbarians that's running, so-called running the world, quote unquote. Running is a good word. Is a good term for it. So everything is chaotic because people are not dealing with cultivating a knowledge of self that's ancestrally based, that's about really controlling that lower nature, that animal spirit. Set that fragments us, remember, in the parable of Asar, set fragments us from our highest consciousness. So we don't have a methodology to deal with Set, because Set is a serious opponent. You can't just say, oh yeah, Set, hey, I know Set, I know Heru, and it's all good. I read that in a book, or I went to a lecture, or I watched, this Kemetic priest, the priest to talk about it. That's not enough. What is the methodology that you're using to control Set? Because remember, you can't talk about manifesting Ma'at on the earth if you have not dealt with Set within yourself. Ma'at must be established within before she can be manifested on the earth. Where are those people manifesting Ma'at? We have to have people, and I'm not saying that there are people on the planet, give thanks, or the planet would have been destroyed by now with all this wickedness. But it has to be where we have a value of that, and that we're becoming more and more aware and moving into those spaces to reclaim what is ours by birthright. And if there are blockages in terms of reclaiming that, removing those blockages. So in any case, I'm here. I don't want to be too long-winded. This is my first Facebook Live in some time. I did one like a couple years ago. And I was supposed to do this interview with Brother Mende, who is the co-administrator I'm working with in terms of ancestral knowledge. So I see comments here. I don't know, exactly, how this works. I'll continue with this technology. But if you want to, I see people saying, I would love to learn more. We have class this coming Wednesday evening. So people who would like to come in for that class, I'm going to make a special offer just for y'all who are here today, okay? That you can come into the class, this one class, and you can come in with an invite from me, okay? Because you are a member of Ancestral Knowledge and you attended this live stream today. So you can come in, for the first class, and all you have to do is contact us. You can contact us at the Bennu Ascension Online Institute. You can Google that and go onto the website. There's a lot of information there. I have video on there, many videos, and many of my radio shows, Inner Light Radio, my show there called Resurrection Time. I have a lot of recordings. So you can get more information about my work over 20 years now. I'm grateful to serve. And, what this particular course is about, this Ascension course. But in any case, there is a page where you can, sign up. And I'm going to set it up for this special offer for those coming in through Ancestral Knowledge, where you can come in. All you have to do is just sign up, register online, and say that you attended. We have a listing of the people here. So if you're listening and you want to participate, you need to probably check off or like or do something so we know that you were present here. And we will send you an invite to join us. This coming Wednesday is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it'll be via webinar. So once you sign up online, you'll get an email, because you have to provide your email address when you register online, and we can send you the webinar invite. Okay, and then those people coming through that workshop, that class, excuse me, will be able to participate for the continuation of the course, and you can make the arrangements for that as well. And there is a donation for the work. You can find that information out, and you can give us a call if you need a payment plan, or I do also I do work barters, and I'm looking for people in particular who have skills with marketing, particularly social media marketing or advertising or administrative skills. Uh, so we can just look at some of the skills that you have, and if you need to do a work barter, partial or full barter, depending on your skills, we can set that up as well. I'm very much interested in working with our people. So that is something that is offered as well. So please do like or send a message here for those who are serious, SIRIUS. I only work with those who are serious. There's very little time to waste. And actually, one of the things that I teach about is the galactic transformations and the specific earth changes that are unfolding, and the increased earthquake volcanic activity that we're seeing based on the increase of the temperature of the planet, and how, what that has to do with in terms of this ascension process, this process in terms of the Ascension resurrection. And so there are specific astronomical phenomena that takes place at specific points in time. As Nit gives birth to Ra in our ancient parable, we see certain levels of what's called galactic transformation. This is also based on the 26,000 year galactic calendar of our ancestors, which is when we complete actually the cycle as we go through all the constellations, and it actually completes itself and actually begins again. And they call the Satiereal year, or the precession of the equinox. And so we're going through that transformation. And so you learn about the sacred science in this work, which is very significant. We do a lot of internal cleansing, as I shared before. Energetic, I teach Kemetic sun gazing, which is very key, very, very important work. And we're able to really experience the sun food that we need to heal ourselves, regenerate ourselves energetically, physically. And that work also helps us to open up our inner eye, the Wajet, right? We can actually expand our inner vision. And we can also utilize Kemetic sun gazing to detoxify, the various body systems. So we work with that as well. So there are many different techniques and tools that you get in the Ascension program. And when you come in after the first session, we'll also have a reading, which is a part of the Ascension package. You get an Ascension oracle reading, so we can look at your blueprint. And I talked about this with Brother Mende in the first interview today, that we weren't able to post because of the technical problems. But in any case, the point is that the oracle reading is done very much in the beginning of the program, so we can look at your blueprint and see specifically what is needed, to be done. And whatever is highlighted in the reading is most significant, and so we focus on that. If there are health problems, if there are ancestral problems, if there are past life issues, whatever is needed comes up in the reading. Family problems or whatever is going on, pertinent information is gathered at that time. And we ask that, you record it as well. Something that I've learned over time, in terms of this work. And I have different people that I work with at different times. So you'll be interfacing with student assistants as well in this work. But in any case, the point here being that the oracle reading is central in this work. And so you get that in the Ascension program. And so, again, this is about worship, you know. It's not about being a grand poobah of knowledge. You know, it's about redefining our love of the Creator. You know, because I think that we've had a low regard in that because we have forgotten ourselves. We forgot how to love ourselves, and we forgot how to be humble. You know, I see a lot of disconnection in terms of, you know, really understanding how to properly engage spirit and the spiritual world, and the type of reverence, love, um, you know, humility that is required to you know, endeavor upon this type of path. So we have to find that love again. We have to find that desire again. We have to find that that truth that's been buried so long within us, and reconnect to that truth. So this is why I came forth today to share this in this moment in time. And one more thing is that we also utilize the Satiereal calendar so that we know where we are in space and time, and so that our people have the proper time orientation, because that's been a big issue as well, where our people don't know what time it is. And so we do utilize our ancient calendars. We do give offerings during specific cycles. We do understand the energy of the day, the energy of the month, the energy of the week. So we are harmonious with that. So we can receive the lessons of the Neteru governing over each lunar cycle. So we can receive the messages of the Neteru governing over each lunar cycle. So this is another thing that you learn about in this program. So Ma'at is central, and this course is walking you through an understanding where you learn that Ma'at is not just the written word, but the living word. The living word. She is the Neteru. She is who you really are. She is an aspect of who you are. And she has been objectified. That people see her as an externality, where they can only relate to her by quantifying her into words. And it's not to say that the divine word, divine utterance, is not divine. It's not sacred. But in the Kemetic spiritual wisdom, what is on your heart is on your tongue. And we have to remove so many impurities that we have stored in the heart, which is where, you know, the soul resides. If we look at the word for heart in our language is ab, and the word for soul is ba. Ab, ba. Very similar, isn't it? And so the heart is where the soul resides. So what was on the heart was on the tongue. But now there's a disconnect from the heart, from the soul. And so the words have no wisdom. They don't speak the truth. In Sarok's wonderful song, Sky God, that I play on my radio show, Inner Light Radio, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a part of the song where they say, I speak life. That's ancient. That's our ancient culture. I speak life. I speak eternal life because I'm connected to my eternal soul, my Ba. So we must get back in connection with our heart, with our soul, so we can speak life, so we can manifest eternal life. And of course, this takes place in Ma'ati, the halls of judgment, the halls of double truth. So we have to go through that soul journey in which the heart is balanced on the scale. Meaning that if the heart is filled with impurities, vices, attachments, illusions, illogical beliefs, all of these things that cause the heart to be heavy and not in balance with the ostrich feather, which is we call the nuwa, then we can't ascend. And you can see as Anu Ani is being led, this is where he's being led to his Asarian resurrection. We cannot experience that if we have all of these things in the heart. If we're not speaking life, therefore what we're manifesting is not life, eternal as well. What we're speaking to bring manifestation is not that, not speaking to that, and not that vibration, because it's set that we're worshiping, not Heru. And that's because we are still in this state of mental chatter. We're moving into the lunar cycle of Amun, Amenet, tomorrow. Significant. Amun deals with, getting all of that mental chatter out of the way so that we can experience that state of nothingness, that emptiness. So we can get rid of all of the mental impurities that block us from self-realization, from self-empowerment, spiritual empowerment, and therefore physical empowerment, which they go together. And don't let nobody tell you otherwise. Because we're multi-dimensional beings. We're not just physical beings. We're spiritual beings. We're energy beings. And they have to be congruent. Your various bodies have to be in balance. What is the methodology for liberation so that you are in balance? This is what is relevant. Don't waste your days. Don't waste your days. And don't waste the wisdom of your ancestors. Don't waste this moment in time or any moment that is significant in your journey. All is in third manifesting itself. This moment is in third manifesting itself. All is in third manifesting itself. Are you listening? Can you listen? Can you receive? This is a blessed time. You have the opportunity before you. You have the carbon within you to transcend your limitations. To walk this earth once again with the spiritual power, the energetic force, to manifest the Merikuti on the earth, the pyramids, and utilize them for your transcendence. They're also not just objects. But can you utilize them at this time so that you can experience higher levels of consciousness. Because the Sakbu, the pyramids at Giza, including the Sphinx, is not just an object that we can go and take trips and see and, talk about things intellectually. What is that? Can you utilize the Sakbu to experience ascension while you're there and when you're not even there? Can you utilize the Sakbu? That's the key. The ancestors are not dead. They walk with us. They talk with us. They help us experience rebirth. Are you in dialogue with them? Do you have a relationship? Are you on a first name basis? It's not good enough to start sitting up here talking about this great ancestor and that great ancestor. You have great ancestors in your line. Are you talking with them? Are they talking to you is the key. And if they're not, what do you need to do to receive their guidance? Because you ain't going to get that sitting up there pontificating this and, saluting the ego and trying to, play games in this death trap. We don't have time for games. As they said, tricks are for, they say tricks are for kids, but whatever. The point being, we don't have time for that. This is the Ascension resurrection. We have to know, again, where we are in space and time. This is the Ascension resurrection. That's key right there. We need to understand, well, why? What's the science of that? What's the astronomy? What's the astrology? What's the science of that? What's the spiritual science of that? What's the spiritual dimensions of that? How can I tap into that? What's the methodology? Does this work? I'm for what works. I've been about that for some time. If it doesn't work, then I just let it go, because it's not going to take me nowhere where I'm going or where I need to be. So you need to look at what is the methodology for liberation that you're employing in the present moment. And are you having a one-on-one conversation basis with your maker? Are you picking up the phone, or do you have a phone? Because some people done thrown their phone away, or they don't even know they have a phone. And when the phone is ringing, then, they're not answering the phone. These are very important things to understand. Okay, so we're going to move on. I see some people here. I'm just getting used to this. So here I see some things here. Please repeat the website. Yes, that's the Bennu Ascension Online Institute. And I know it's .org. You can Google that. It comes up first in the server there. And finding the blockages, we have to go to Tahuti, because we do oracle readings for that. Tahuti and Kansu, actually, that governs over the oracles, to see what the blockages are about, because every program has an origin. So we have to look at that. It could be this life, could be past life, it could be childhood, it could be different things. There is an origin. So we have to look at that. But yes, we can work to remove the blockages. Everything is up to you. It's based on what you put into it and the effort that you put into your own ascension. It's all up to you. So I invite you this coming Wednesday to come into the webinar class we're having from 9 p.m. to about 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Also invite you to join me on Tuesday, this Tuesday, from 3 p.m. to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time for Resurrection Time on Inner Light Radio. You can find that information on my website as well. There is a page for the radio show, and you can tune in through the website on that page for my radio show on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or you can go to Inner Light Radio, their direct website, and also tune in. This week I'll also be talking about the Bennu Ascension Online Institute and the earth changes that are unfolding. So I will be talking about that as well. So family, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And thank you so much, Brother Mende, for opening the door as well in ancestral knowledge so this could unfold. And again, I'm grateful to serve, and I look forward to hearing from you. Shematek.